Why stop at a biological warfare when you can also plan for a more traditional war? In fact, it's one that has been in the making for years now. China has grand plans. You see, I'm talking about the invasion of Taiwan. It is no longer a question of if it will happen, but when. China has carried out numerous dress rehearsals, but none has been able to tell us what really happens on D-Day. What happens when the Chinese military marches towards Taiwan? Now, one American think tank has come up with a few answers. The Center for Strategic and International Studies says that the Chinese invasion of Taiwan will fail. In other words, the dragon's dreams won't come to life. But, yes, there's a but. This think tank says that this will only happen if America helps defend Taiwan. I told you, this is an American think tank. So you shouldn't be surprised that the role of Washington is being played up. Now, will Washington step in to defend Taiwan? US President Joe Biden says, yes, America will defend Taiwan. In fact, Biden has said this publicly not once, not twice, but 4 times. There was a time when America thrived on its policy of strategic ambiguity. But now, as American experts talk of the possible invasion of Taiwan, American strategy seems all but ambiguous. But America won't be alone in defending Taiwan. If the US goes to war, its allies are likely to follow. And Japan will be the first one. The war will be too close to home. Look at this map now. Look at how close Taiwan, China and Japan are to each other geographically. The Japanese prefecture, Okinawa, is just 600 kilometers from Taiwan. Goes without saying, stray bullets will land there too. And Japan will be dragged in. So, Tokyo is preparing for this scenario. We have been telling you how Japan has gone back on its post-war pacifism. I don't know how many of you know this, but Japan's post-World War II constitution does not recognize the military, just a self-defense force with nominal ammunition. And Japan is now changing with the times. It has revamped the country's national security strategy. The country is stockpiling spare parts, ammunition. Japan is arming its military, and this is in preparation for the Taiwan war. Japan's Prime Minister Fumio Kishida is not shy to admit this in public. His government's national security paper says that Russia has set a precedent by invading Ukraine, and now Tokyo believes that China will be encouraged to attack Taiwan. And this will threaten Japanese islands and important sea routes. The paper claims, and I quote, "The strategic challenge posed by China is the biggest Japan has ever faced." So what is Japan doing about it? The government is doubling its defense budget. Japan will be spending about 2% of its GDP on defense. The country has also increased the defense ministry's share to about 1/10 of all public spending. This makes Japan the 3rd biggest military spender, from pacifist to the world's 3rd biggest military spender. So will the drastic swing be enough to match China's might? Now let me come back to the assessment by this American think tank. The Center for Strategic and International Studies says that Japan will experience enormous losses in the Taiwan war. But Japan will not be the only one bleeding. China will also destroy the US air bases in Japan. We are talking as far as Guam. This think tank believes that China would also sink 2 US aircraft carriers, between 10 and 20 destroyers and cruisers. So what about the Chinese casualties? The think tank believes that China's invading force would be destroyed even before it manages to capture any significant part of Taiwan. As for Taipei, the Chinese army will never be able to make it to the capital city. Now the obvious question is, how did these people arrive at this conclusion while sitting in America? Well, they played war games. They tested 24 scenarios, all focused on one goal: China's attempt to seize Taiwan. They have visualized how the invasion will play out. These are interesting details. You may want to listen in closely. This group of experts believes China will begin the invasion with bombardment. The PLA will bomb most of Taiwan's Navy and Air Force. This will happen in a matter of hours. Then, the Chinese Navy would encircle Taiwan. Thousands of PLA soldiers and their equipment will be ferried across the Taiwan Strait. Taiwan won't be sitting quietly. It would sink the incoming Chinese vessels. The US submarines, bombers and fighters will cripple the Chinese amphibious fleet. The US will be held by Japan's self-defense forces, and China will then strike back and bomb Japanese bases and US ships. I repeat, this is all hypothetical, of course. And at the end of the day, it is predicted that it will be Taiwan's victory and Taiwan will remain autonomous, or so believe these American experts. Sounds like a dream on paper. But let me be clear, there's little to no guarantee that the same sequence of events will play out when and if China goes to war. Also, we have only accounted for what happens when America defends Taiwan. Chances are it may not. What if there is a new American president? What if America changes its mind, its policy? So what happens if the US does not run to save Taiwan? In that case, experts believe that Taiwan will fall in 3 months, could be less. So are the Americans trying to flatter themselves, or is this casual provocation? Let's get one thing clear. No matter which side wins, there will be a great loss of lives in this war. This think tank too admits that within weeks of the war, as many as 10,000 people could die. Also, what happens if the war takes a nuclear turn? Japan knows the answer to that question. The Chinese have nukes. So do the Americans. Neither of the two will want to be seen as the weaker side. Push comes to shove, either Beijing or Washington could be forced to press the nuclear button. What happens then? There's only one way to avoid this. Forget the war games, forget the actual wars, the ones fought in the past and the ones that armies are preparing for at present to win in the future. It's time to move on. WION World is now available in your country. Download the app now and get all the news updates on the move.